Hey, chosen ones, how are you? Monica here with Harmony in the Highest, and I'm back with another video. And I thought today we could talk a little bit about the topic of identity theft. Since I've experienced this a lot in my life, or just recently, especially in the last few years, since being on this path with Christ, being newly saved. I feel like I've encountered a lot of identity theft in various forms. So I wanted to talk a little bit more on that subject today. Um, First, I want to encourage everyone to embrace their own form of beauty, like no matter what that is. Like I pray that we could all learn to embrace our own forms of beauty, that we fall in love with ourselves in the way that God designed us to be, because we all have like our own forms of beautiful. And I think it's really beautiful when we learn what that is about ourselves and we try to highlight that in ourselves. So that's what I've been kind of like focusing on lately is how do I highlight like my own form of beauty? Because I think sometimes in the past I've tried to fit other forms of beauty, other molds that don't really fit me as well. Because I think I have more like long, elongated features and like graceful features. So I look better when I highlight that with doing like kind of updos and things that accentuate more of like a graceful beauty, because that is my form of beauty. So yeah, I think it's beautiful when we can all like embrace the form of beauty that God gave us and highlight on that. And of course, if you want to draw in other like elements, you can do that. Like if one day I want to be more sexy and like less elegant, like I can try that, I can do that. But I've learned like it doesn't fit as well. Like it just something's off. Like when you're not embodying like kind of who God called you to be. Because all of my character really fits the like elegant personality. Like I'm more of a like poetic type of person, and I am like sensitive in nature, like all those things. So my form of beauty like fits like who I am really well. And so like I don't want to mislead people in like the way I dress or the way I wear my hair if I'm trying to like embody another form that doesn't actually like fit me. Somebody could read like the wrong messages about like who I am too. So I think that like we're also given like our forms of beauty to kind of send the message as to like who we are as people to the world. Like that's a big part of what beauty represents to me. So that's why I think it's just so important for everyone to embody like their own form, because you want to send the right message to the world about like who you are. My cat's like scratching on the door to come in. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. So yeah, so as I was saying, that's why I think it's so important. I mean, right there. To for everyone to like embody their own form of beauty. Um, because it's like a representation of like who you are. Like God designed us all so uniquely, and he thought about like every detail when he designed us, like when he created our look. And keeping in mind of all of like who we are, like on the inside, like just all like every aspect of us. Like he thought of that when he shaped us, when he like carved us, like um and so that's why I think it's like it's so important to honor that. Um and I no longer want to be like misleading. I don't want to like try to do the sexy look when like that's not who I am as like a person. Like yes, I can be sexy, but like that's not the first thing that like I about me to draw. Like I'm not as much of a earthly person. I'm a lot more celestial, like just in my thinking and like my thought processes. So it makes sense that I look the way I look, you know. Like I said, I am very sensitive in nature. Like I'm an empath. I was on like a spiritual journey for 7 years. Like, you know, I feel like my look really fits that. And so, yeah, like I think there's nothing wrong in me embracing that. What I found really strange in the prophetic community, and in the, like I think maybe the false prophetic community is that I think I'm seeing like a lot of identity theft and seeing what looks like identity theft in the community. And what that looks like is like I'll be listening to a prophet who I feel like is trying to, was sent to like help me, what sounds like them being sent to help me by God, on my path as I'm like rising and I'm new in Christ, like somebody who's giving out advice, like on, um, how to walk this walk as a chosen one. Because like I'm still fairly new. I've been like kind of walking this path now for like 2 years or so, like definitely like more in the last year, but I would say 2 years. And so I've really been like, you know, um, seeking advice and prophetic words from like others who have walked this path like before me as like guidance. And sometimes when I'm like listening to these people, like what I've been starting to see is that they will start looking like who God is calling me to step into. Like starting to like, almost turn into that version of me that God is calling me to step into in this time. And it's been very confusing because it's like, you know, um, it feels like they get a glimpse into my future before I even see my future, and then they start to try to like copy that look. So it's been quite confusing, to say the least. And I can feel it in my spirit. I'm very intuitive when I see that, and I can feel that it's coming from like the enemy. Since the enemy's tried so hard to like, he's done a lot of different forms of identity theft with me, personally, and I feel like that's just one of them. Like having prophets that maybe even started off with good intentions. Like I feel like if you spend enough time in someone's energy field, or like being able to look at their destiny as maybe someone sent again as like a destiny helper, that God sent as a destiny helper, if you're glimpsing at them so much in the spirit, like there might be a temptation to start embodying that, to start looking like that person that you're seeing that God is calling them to be. And that's like where it gets a little bit scary, because it's like I want everybody to be authentic and be authentically like who they are. And it's also confusing because it's like, if this is who I am, then like, well, if you're me, then how am I going to be me? It's there's an identity crisis there. And I've already been kind of trying to work through identity crisis of sorts in my life, because of enduring like narcissistic abuse. And this feels like an extension of that narcissistic abuse that I have already received in different relationships. Like this feels now like it's on a more like, I've said this like several times, like it's on a more like cosmic level, like with the enemy more in my face about it than before. But really, like he is just a jealous, uh, you know, being. Like the enemy is just extremely jealous, and so he doesn't like when when God's children, like he doesn't like when we shine in our own light, because we're representatives of God, and so he doesn't want us to shine as that, because we are, that makes God, that exalts God. Like when we shine in the light that God has given us to shine in, like it, that exalts God. So and the enemy doesn't want that. Like he wants to adopt every like idea as his own, even when it comes to someone's beauty. Like, so that's why he does like divination, because divination is like, it comes from envy. When you look ahead at someone's future and you try to be that person, like be the person that that person is becoming, that's like a form of divination. And the enemy is the one behind divination, because to me you would only do that if you were envy, if you were full of envy, and if the enemy wasn't like corrupting your mind with envy. And I wouldn't know so much about it if it hadn't happened in my life with a good friend recently, or someone I thought was going to be a good friend, who ended up, I think she was like having dreams, she said, but I really think that she was doing divination, because she said she saw like that I was going to be getting married soon, and she saw like she didn't like that I had my own apartment and the things that like the Holy Spirit had brought into my life through a lot of hard work. Like I sat every day in the secret place with the Holy Spirit, and He was coaching me on how to transform my life. So like, I put the work in to sit with Him every day and learn these different like techniques and everything. And so I feel like everything that I have in my life is well deserved. But all she could see was through like the eyes of envy and the eyes of like greed when she came into my life, and she couldn't even be like happy for me, which is just so weird to me. Like it's not something that I'm used to. I didn't grow up with this like level of like with these games being played. Like I didn't grow up with that. Like I have like a beautiful mom. She's a Leo, and I feel like we both just we would never try to like we would never like compete with each other in that way. Like um we're more about, I don't know, building each other up and not like bringing each other down, and or like wanting what the other one has. Like just I didn't grow up with that form of like envy around me, and it just feels weird to have experienced that. um and somebody going willing to go to such lengths to like have what I have. Like I think this person spread a lot of false accusations in the prophetic community about me, as again I'm just starting to like rise. And this is another tactic of the enemy, is to try to get ahead of you. Like he sees where you're going, and he wants to get ahead of you on your own path. Like so he'll send his satanic agents, which I now realize is who this person was in my life, to spread rumors about you in the community before you have the opportunity to like go into the community and meet the different prophets and such. Like I feel like she tried to get at the people that I was destined to meet, and get to know as mentors, and as people who would be praying for me, as people who were like looking out for me. And she spread like different rumors that had no foundation in the truth, like whatsoever. One of those rumors has been about lust. And I just want to come on the record and say that um, yes, in the past, I went through a phase of, I wouldn't even call it lust. I went through a phase of, I had experienced trauma in a narcissistically abusive relationship, back to back two narcissistically abusive relationships, which left me open to the predatorial advances of other guys. So it's like the shark in the water can smell blood. They could smell my vulnerability during that time. And also my boundaries had been crossed, and so you start to I think I thought that it was coming from me, but it was coming from the enemy. When I was in the spiritual community, right at that same time I started to entertain the idea of polyamory, but that I realize now was all symptoms of trauma, because when your boundaries have been violated to that extent, you're more likely to be promiscuous, or polyamorous. And this is like this was a brief period after my trauma, that I know all came about through the enemy's orchestration, his perfect orchestration in my life. Um, and so it doesn't surprise me, but what he wanted to do was to like exaggerate that period and say that through the satanic agent that those things were still happening in my life, and that is not the case, and that is not true. And the enemy's outside right now trying to interfere with this message, but that is not the truth. I have been single. I've been in the secret place. God has been hiding me in the wilderness for the last 2 years, I would say. There was one person that I thought could have been a potential partner, also on the Christian path. somebody that I thought maybe was God sent was actually sent by the enemy, to engage in like a sexual interaction, maybe like over a year and a half ago, and that was the only one. And since that, there's been nothing, like zero activity on that level because I'm waiting for my kingdom spouse. And even with him, I told him I was waiting for my kingdom spouse and that that wasn't going to happen again. And um, I entertained the idea that he was my kingdom spouse, but found that he wasn't. And so I have been on a path of like waiting for my kingdom spouse for the last 2 years or so. And I'd stopped that promiscuous phase even earlier than that. I repented for my sexual sin. I'm continue to do that. I'm on a fast right now until October, like a 7 day fast, and I'm repenting each day for any sexual sin in my past, and along with generational curses, along with my involvement in the New Age. Like I'm really want to be open and honest with like where I've been in my past because I don't have anything to hide as far as that goes. I've been silent when I've heard all these different false accusations because they just really like threw me off guard. I really didn't know what to say when I saw that. Like I didn't know that that level of like deception existed. And then some people told me, don't say anything, like you're better off being silent. But I'm like, somebody's like falsely accusing me and is like spreading this around the whole prophetic community, people who are supposed to be like praying for me and helping me rise up as a prophet. Why would I not say anything to them when they're hearing from this person clearly because they mention lust a lot in their messages, and that is not something that I struggle with and has never been something that I've struggled with. It's just, again, we talk about our nature. My nature is not to be lustful. Like you can look at me. Like I said, I'm not very earthly of a person. I'm like a lot more celestial. Like I'm like up in the clouds a lot of the time. I am not a very lusty person. If you guys understand, like, I mean, I come from a spiritual background. So there's something in Ayurvedic medicine in India that talks about our elements, which is probably not something like the Christian community wants to hear about. But anyway, I'm not very earthly. Let's just say that. So I think it's almost funny that the person said that I struggle with lust because I definitely don't. She had said to me that that's something that she struggles with is pornography, and that she had a big problem with that. So found it interesting that she put that on me. She found that in her heart to like, yeah, to put basically her sin on me. Um, and it's like I wouldn't even like I if she told me she had a lust issue, it's not something that's not something I want to go around and like tell everyone about. Like I would like just want to give her advice on it if I could. Like I don't know what it's like to feel a lot of lust in my body. Like I just don't. Um, so I don't even know how to give advice on it. But my